Okay, friends, so shalom to the inner dimension shiur on the parsha, Parshas Tazria-Metzorah. Thank you so much for joining and for listening in. I hope you're feeling well and you're doing well and you're holding up in this difficult time. And this week, Be'ezer Hashem, we're going to be delving into a teaching from the Meor Einayim, from Rabbi Nachum of Chernobyl, one of the earliest Hasidic masters, a Talmud of both the Baal Shem Tov and afterwards the Maggid is rich, who teaches in his Sefer Meor Einayim on Parshas Metzorah the depth of the pigam, of the blemish that's caused by speaking lashon hara, that's caused by speaking quote-unquote evil speech, that ultimately leads to the punishment or to the rectification of tsaras. That these parshas, Tazria-Metzorah, predominantly Metzorah, and Tazria and Metzorah are both speaking about this tsaras. Tsaras could occur on a person's body, it could occur on a person's clothing, in a person's house, and there are many complex rules and laws that need to be ascertained by the Kohen and followed to be able to figure out if this is a tahar situation, if the tsaras is tameh, and all the different legalities and laws that need to be followed in order to figure out exactly how to take care of the tsaras. And in a case where the Metzorah is exhibiting a form of tsaras that is indeed tameh, so he has to go out of the camp, separate from everybody else. Yeshe badad, he has to sit alone, and afterwards he has to remain there for a specific amount of time until afterwards the tsaras heals, and the Kohen then ascertains and assesses the situation again to see whether the tsaras has indeed gone away, and there is a rectification process that involves the birds and involves the earthenware vessels and the red string and the spring water, that after this entire process, only then is the Metzorah completely and entirely healed and rectified again with this punishment, but it's really a tikkun, it's a rectification of the soul that came from the blemish of lashon hara. And so what exactly is this lashon hara? Of course, on a simple level, to speak negatively about another Jew is something that we want to stay very far away from. Obviously, it goes without saying that the most important thing is achdus, the most important thing is an ayin tova, is to see other people and other things and life circumstances in a good light, in a good way. That's on a simple level. But the Meor Einayim delves so much deeper into what the essence of that pigam, of that blemish is. What is going on when we speak in a negative way, in a way that's detached from kedusha, from holiness? What is it about speech that's so important, that's so powerful, that has such an effect that it could bring about on a person such a negative thing of tsaras, a punishment that the Ramban says is supernatural. It's not a form, it's mistranslated as leprosy, but the truth is it's a supernatural occurrence that happens to a person. Why is speaking lashon hara, again, why does it need such a tremendous rectification that reflects again the intensity and the severity of the blemish? What's that all about? So read with me if you have it online. I'm sure you could find it. The Meor Einayim on Parshas Metzorah, but if you don't have it in front of you, I'm going to try to read clearly and translate, and we'll attempt in the next half hour or so, it's a longer piece, so we'll try to keep it to a half hour, but it might go over time, to be able to delve into the depth of the Meor Einayim's teaching on the Metzorah and on the Pigam of lashon hara and the spiritual inner dimension of what exactly is going on in this sugya. Zuk the Heilige Meor Einayim Schusya Gonalenu, says the Holy Master, the pasuk in Parshas Metzorah speaks of the rectification process mentioned above, involving two birds, involving the earthenware vessel and spring water, and a tcheles, a string, a crimson, a red string, that the Kohen would go ahead and he would take care of this tikkun, he would take care of this process that the Metzorah had to undergo in order to be completely tahar, completely pure. V'darash Razal and Chazal say an erichin, amazing thing. Moitzi ra. Why is the Metzorah called a Metzorah? Okay, tsaras, right, is literally, again, translated as leprosy, but the supernatural leprosy, and therefore the Metzorah is someone who has tsaras and is therefore the leper in English, right? Leprosy, and the one who has leprosy is the leper. That's on a simple level why he's called a Metzorah, because again, he's afflicted with tsaras. But is there a deeper level? Say Chazal, Metzorah is a conjugation and a compound of two words, which is motzi ra. And here Chazal learned that the reason that a person is afflicted with tsaras is because motzi ra, is because he emitted out of his mouth ra, evil, motzi. He brought out, he expressed to the world, he articulated ra, negative form of speech, something that separates between man and his wife, something that separates between man and his neighbor, breaks apart communities, breaks apart families, motzi ra. And that's what the Gemara says, that because of motzi ra, because of this expression of an evil form of speech and communication, Niga'im Ba'im, this causes for the plague of leprosy, of this tsaras, to come upon a person. But what's the depth, as the Meor Einayim? And this really requires a lot of focus. It's a very deep idea, an expansive idea. We could talk about this for hours. To try to be mitzamtzim and constrict ourselves to a half hour is not the easiest thing, but we'll try with Hashem's help. Abba Inyan, but he says, the truth is d'chsiv, that the pasuk in the Torah begins with Bereshis bara Elokim. That in the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. V'darsh Razal, say Chazal, and Rashi brings that, the second, third Rashi in the Torah brings, B'shvil HaTorah u B'shvil Yisrael. That this word Bereshis could mean in the beginning, Bereshis, but it could also mean, Beis can stand for the word B'shvil, because of. And therefore you can read this word Bereshis as B'shvil Reshis, because of the beginning. What's the beginning for which the world was created? That beginning is connected to the concept both of Klal Yisrael, the nation of Am Yisrael, who are called Reshis, who are called the beginning. Yisrael Allah b'machshava tchila, the conception and the dream of a Jewish nation that would serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with such sweetness and such emunah was that which was the premise of all of creation. They're the Reshis, but also the Torah is also called Reshis, and therefore Bishvil Reshis, Bereshis means that the Torah was that the world rather was created for these two things that are called Reshis, which again is Am Yisrael and the Torah HaKadosh, an amazing thing. That's what Rashi says. So we find that if the whole world was created for the Torah and for Klal Yisrael, and everybody knows that the Torah and Klal Yisrael are really one and the same. Orais of Yisrael Chadhu, that the 600,000 letters with which the Torah is written are connected to the 600,000 root souls of the Jewish nation. They're really one and the same. They're really very deeply connected. Says the Meor Einayim Nimsa, the Yisraelim darva chashav ma'od lifnei Hashem Yisbarach. So we find that each and every member of the Jewish nation is certainly the nation as a whole, that collective soul of our people, is chashav ma'od lifnei Hashem Yisbarach, is so precious to the Master of the world. He takes so much pride in us, to the point that shebishvilam bara kol ha'olam v'chol ha'bruim, that because of them and only for them, everything in creation was created. It was worth billions of people coming to the world who will never know about a Jew, and certainly not an Orthodox Jew, and nothing about the Torah. It was worth them to be created in a certain way. Of course, they're precious on a certain level as well. And ultimately, the ultimate rectification is that the entire world will come la'avdei Shem echad ki beisi beis tefila yikar l'chol ha'amim b'li she'elah. But on a certain level, we have to believe, Rabbi Nachman says, that everything in the world, and Sichas Ran, everything in the world is created b'shvil emunah, is here for us. And so in a certain way, it's worth billions and billions and billions of people to be in the world, just so that a Jew should be able to live in a world where there's bechira in terms of the challenge of emunah that's caused by so many people who have no connection to the Torah and live very happy, healthy lives. And in a certain way, a Jew says to himself, how could it be that we have the truth? It was worth it in a certain way because they are the root, they are the core, they are the premise for all of creation. And again, it's not so much to lift them up on a pedestal as much as it is, like Rabbi Nachman says in the beginning of the Likutei Moharan Torah, hey, it's an obligation. If the whole world was created b'shvili, says Rabbi Nachman Nimsa, a Jew has to look and to rectify the world and to realize that any pagam, any blemish in the world is likely because of something that he is or isn't doing. Like the Gemara says, we should see the whole entire world on a balance, 50-50. And every action that we take, we need to believe that this can actually change the tide of all of creation. Because what do we know? We never ever know. What do we know about the power of our actions? But ultimately we see that if the world was created for the Jewish nation on that level, they are very, very precious. How precious it was to bring everything, domim, inanimate, rocks, plant life, tzomea, chai, animals, medaber, and all of humanity into creation for this small nation. Hein am levada yishka, this lonely nation. Shebishvilam bara kol ha'olam v'chol ha'bruim, that because of them all of creation was created. V'Hashem yisbarach mekabel taina mikol ha'cham Yisrael, afilu mirasha gadol. Says the Meor Einayim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has pleasure, has tainug, from each and every member of the Jewish nation, even a Rasha Gadol, even a very wicked person. Shocking thing to hear a tzaddik write. We'll read it again. The Master of the world is receiving pleasure mikol echad mi Yisrael, from each and every member of the Jewish nation, afilu mi Rasha Gadol, even from the most wicked of them. The pasuk in shiur and the Gemara in Eruvin, afilu rikanim shebecham aleim mitzvahs kariman, that even those empty members of the Jewish nation who are disconnected from their tradition, who are disconnected from a life of inwardness, who are disconnected from seeing the world with spiritual eyes and from seeing that malay chalaretz kavayda, that everything that we can encounter in the world is bursting with God's presence. Afilu rikanim shebecham aleim mitzvahs kariman, they're full of mitzvahs deep within. And even on a certain level, at the surface, there's a certain Jewish holiness that is always expressed. Even a person could be wicked, but he's not wicked. His actions are wicked. We don't daven, like the Gemara in Brachas, we don't daven for the wicked to leave the world, to perish, but rather we daven for the sins to leave the world, because those are not essential. The essential Jew remains. Says the Heilige Meor Einayim, we find that if a person speaks negatively about a Jew, it's not stam, like if you would have another group of people that one is slandering the other and it's not a nice thing to do. That's for sure true. But it's something far deeper because it affects HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. Not just it's not a nice thing, it's not a pleasant thing, and it brings about discord and disunity, which are never good things. But it's actually something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about very, very personally, and he takes very personally. So if I go ahead and I speak negatively about another Jew, even if I say the truth, which is what Lashon Hara is, not truth is rechilos, but even if I'm saying what's true, and I didn't make it up, in a certain way, you're holding back God's tainug, God's pleasure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had from this person, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose not to look at this, didn't want to hear from it, didn't want to see it, not because he didn't care, not because it didn't affect him on that level that this person is acting negatively and this person is sinning and this person is living life in an improper way. Not that it doesn't matter, it matters. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always looking at the good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu chooses not to look at that because he realizes that that's not essential. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the most essential in the world, and therefore the way that he looks with his infinite eyesight, kaviyachol, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at the essentiality of who we are, not at the externals, not at the garments, not at the dirty bottle. Hashem sees the clean water inside. The water looks dirty because the bottle is dirty, but the water is clean. And the Master of the world is looking toward that clean water all the time. And here comes somebody, and somebody, so to speak, goes ahead and he prevents HaKadosh Baruch Hu from seeing the good because he expresses with his mouth, and he's motzi into the world. He brings out Tazria-Metzorah to go ahead and to awaken that negativity on another Jew. It's mevatel Hashem's tainug. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, whoa. You know, like you're ruining the vibe. You know, a person comes in, he just starts speaking negatively. Of course, it's not nice, and of course, it's bad midas. But says the Meor Einayim, on a deeper level, you're affecting God. It's not just you're affecting that person, hurting that person's feelings. With all that Chazal say, it's better to jump into a fire than to embarrass a person, barabim. All the negativity, right, that's involved in such a thing, and why it's so bad, and why it's so detrimental. It's affecting HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe, he says, so deep and so extreme in a certain way. Midas atzvus kiviyachol. You are causing God to be depressed on whatever level that means. That's what he says. Because the pasuk says, we find a concept that God himself could become dejected, and God himself could become in a certain way depressed, beaten down. And so therefore, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu was receiving oneg, pleasure, from this Jewish person, that Hashem was looking toward the essentiality and ignoring all of the externals, sending that person messages, I love you, I want to bring you back, I want you close to me, I want you in my arms, and here comes somebody else and he prevents that pleasure from God by speaking Lashon Hara. Says the Meor Einayim, it's only natural that saras, that an affliction, that a plague should come upon that person, because those three words, oneg, if you switch them around, spell nega, spell plague. The Metzorah, the Moitzi Ra, goes ahead and he prevents the oneg of God. He's mebalbel the oneg. He confuses the oneg, the pleasure, by causing HaKadosh Baruch Hu to go ahead and to become distracted from the essentiality, so to speak, on his level. and he brings into the world something so negative, something so unessential, even if it's true. If it's necessary, it's a separate conversation, halachas, if it's necessary. But even if it's true. And that turns the onig of God into nega. That the natural result of such a thing is going to be a plague. And therefore, because he went ahead and turned God's onig, so to speak, into nega, into a plague, and he ruined God's mood, so to speak, and he caused a certain level of moichin de katnus, a constricted perspective to ignore the essential and to see only the outside. In his life also, his oneg is going to become nega. He's going to become bitter. That's going to affect him on that level. So intense, so extreme. The Gemara there in Erchin says that the sin of Lashon Hara, even though it seems to be such a thing that the Gemara says, Kulam ba'avak Lashon Hara, who's the person who could claim never to have spoken negatively about somebody else. It's so difficult. We speak the whole time, we speak the whole day, and it's such a yitzhahara, and it seems to us to be such a small thing. Says the Gemara, it is equal to the big three. Avodah Zarah, idolatry, Gili Arayas, Shvichas Damim, murder, mamish on the highest level. This seemingly small sin registers in a very, very, very deep way. Says the Meor Einayim, we have to understand what is the connection between Avodah Zarah and Lashon Hara. What's the connection? Okay, could ask also about adultery and murder, right? What's the connection? But Avodah Zarah, idolatry, speaking something negatively about somebody else is idolatry, mamish. Hayitach, and how do you understand such a thing? Says the tzaddik. And this is very, very deep. It really, to really do this properly would take at least an hour, maybe two. But we're going to have to do it very quickly. I see we're running out of time. We're coming to the end. And so we may have to go a little bit over time. I apologize in advance. But I really do think it's worth it. I hope it's worth it. The pasuk says, Bidvar Hashem shamayim nasu, that heaven and earth were created by the word of God. This is the whole beginning of Bereshis, right? Bereshis bara lekim, Sashamayim esarz vayomer lekim yihar, vayomer lekim, vayomer. The whole creation is with speech. Sha'akol nihiyeh bidvaro, like we make a brach on water. Thanks for reminding me. Sha'akol nihiyeh bidvaro. Everything was created with God's speech. What's the secret of God's speech? What is this? Says the Meor Einayim, shekol ha'elamayis v'chol ha'bruim nibur b'dibur b'chaf b'beis oisias ha'Torah. That all of the spiritual worlds and our physical world and all creatures and all levels of existence and every particle of physicality was created with the 22 letters of the Torah, of the Aleph Beis. Shehu Nikra Malchus Shamayim. And these 22 letters of the Torah with which HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything, because we know that everything that exists has a word in Lashon Kodesh, right? It has something that it's called in modern Hebrew, but in Lashon Kodesh, the way that it's called in the Torah. Everything that you can find has a source in some level in a word. And unlike English, the yskstudios, the Tazria-Metzorah, other tzaddikim describe, unlike French and Russian and other languages, the thing that we call something in Hebrew is not just a title, a name. That this is a sefer, right? But it could also have been called a shulchan, table. Just happens to be, right? Like in English, why is a phone called a phone? Okay, I understand that it's related, right, to other previous words that have what to do, with this word. But it could have been also called a chair. It's not essential to this thing. This is the title that we give it. And so when we speak to others about a phone, it conjures up this image because that's the name that we give it. In Lashon Kodesh, the name of something, of an item, is essential to it. That is what it is. A stone is an even. Not just that it happens to be called an even, and it could have also been called, again, a kisei. That item that we're holding in our hands, this stone, if you drill deep down to the core and the spiritual energy that's flowing down to manifest and to form this thing so that we perceive a stone with all of its properties, you'll find those three letters, Aleph, Beis, Nun, at the deepest core of that thing. These letters, and therefore everything that exists, is a tziruf, is a combination in some way, or a permutation is the better word for it, of letters in the Aleph Beis that ultimately are the source of all the letters of the Torah. On that level of holiness, everything that you see at the core of it is spiritual letters, is spiritual energy that manifests in letters. Nikar Malchus Shemaim, and these letters are comparable and compared to the concept of sovereignty of a king. Why? If a king doesn't speak, so that nobody knows what exactly he wants from us. Nobody knows what edicts he's trying to go ahead and to express. A king expresses his desire, his will, his gezeros, his decrees through speech. When the king speaks, so then his desire becomes revealed. And this is exactly what the world is. It's God's malchus, it's God's kingship. It's the malchus to Kedusha. To realize that God's glory fills the earth. Like the Shulchan Aruch begins, every single person should act, every word that he says and every action that he takes, really tzaddikim lived on this level, should be as if he's in God's throne room. And that's where a Jew lives. A Jew lives in God's throne room. The whole world lives in God's throne room. But a Jew mamish needs to be aware that everything that he says, that he speaks, that he acts, that he thinks is in the throne room of the Lord. It's in the throne room of God. And that's what this world is God's kingdom. And how does HaKadosh Baruch Hu express his sovereignty, his kingship? By bringing existence into being every split second. Is bringing existence into being continually, at every split second, every nanosecond, and beyond that. The Isa b'Sefer Yetzirah, Kavan Bapeh. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the whole world again with his mouth, like a king who speaks out an edict, speaks out a decree. How do we know what God wants? Because it surrounds us. We're swimming in what God wants. We're swimming in God's speech. We can't perceive it that way. It's like the code behind this matrix. We perceive a table. We perceive that there's a code there, and that code is the Aleph Beis. And those Aleph Beis are being perpetually spoken. Every split second. It's not that once he spoke them, like the Baal Shem Tov taught. When you look at the heavens, you need to see the letters Yehi Rakia. God's expression of his sovereignty, of his presence. People think God is silent. God is the loudest entity in existence. That all there is him. All there is his speech. Everything that we're surrounded by, we're swimming in his speech. He's speaking at us all the time. All the time. B'dvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu Kavan Bepeh, the Sefer Yetzirah says. Sha'Hashem Yisbarach Kava Chaf Beis Oisios Adam Adimar Malchus Shemayim Midas Adnos Adni Sifasai Tiftach Kava Bepeh Shala Adam. This concept of the world, of our physical reality being founded upon spiritual energies that are manifest in letters, is connected to the Midah, to the trait of Adni, of Aleph Daled Nun Yud. That's connected with the concept of speech, because the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, we don't speak, we only write. But we are allowed to pronounce Ado Shem, right? Adni, that name, Aleph Daled Nun Yud. It's connected with the concept of speech, and that's what the pasuk says that we say before Shemona Esrei, Adni Sifasai Tiftach. This midah, this trait of the master of the world, when he manifests in this name, in this garment, Adni is the concept of his expressing the world into being through speech. Adni is Sifasai Tiftach, his open lips, his speaking lips. Our physical reality, Malchus, the Malchus of Hashem, Malchus Shemayim. Says the Metzorah. Says the Metzorah. Says the Heilige Meor Einayim. He says, guess what? I want to tell you a secret. That if each and every member of the Jewish nation is a son to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is a daughter to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is Hashem's only child, each and every one of us, B'shvili Nivra Olam. The Meor Einayim says that the same way that a parent doesn't speak Lashon Hara about a child, just doesn't. If things are necessary to say negative, l'to elas, a parent will say. But to stam, speak Lashon Hara, to ridicule, to denigrate, a parent doesn't do such a thing. Says the Meor Einayim, God doesn't speak Lashon Hara about the Jews either. Existence, God's speech, is full of diburim tovim, is full of good words. Nature is full of good words. Man comes ahead and he manipulates nature to produce terrible things. But Elikim nasas ha'adam yashar. Ki me'ita lo seitzi arois. From HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's pure in the world, every apple that we pick up, every tree that we see outside, grass that's growing, a sky above us, the ground below us, the speech of God is filled with diburim tovim. A Jew is surrounded by HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking good things about him, good things about the Jews, good things about the world. Ki yedaber shalom el amai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking peaceful words. That's what we should feel when we walk outside and look up at the heavens. We should see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking the heavens into being, and those words that are being used are diburim tovim, are hopeful words, are words of chizuk, of encouragement, of support, of belief in every Jew. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the world into existence every minute because He believes that we can do it. He believes that we mamish can utilize our lives to do something great, to transform all of existence into into ein oyed malvadai. That's what nature is telling me. That's what happens when I wake up in the morning. It's a natural thing. I open my eyes. I say Moida Ani until the end. Rabba emunasecha. Oh God, do you believe in me? Ribbon Shalom, Rabba emunasecha. Your faith in me is so great. That's what nature is telling us. These words with which HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the world into existence. Hashem doesn't speak lashon hara about you and I. Nature is the biggest proof that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is lifting us up every moment. That Hashem recreates the world after a Holocaust. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu recreates a world after so many terrible tragedies. After so much destruction of humanity, because God still believes in humanity. If He didn't believe in us, it would be over. We wouldn't be having this meeting. We wouldn't be having this shiur, this sharing, this tefillah, this davening. We wouldn't be having it. There would be nothing. And so nature needs to speak to a Jew again, because nature is words. Creation is being spoken into existence every moment. And to us, it has to register on such a deep level that Hashem loves us. That's what heavens are telling me. Yoim liyoim yabia oimer. The days speak. V'layla l'layla yichav. There's an exchange. Nature is speaking. Nature is not silent. Nature is speaking. And nature is speaking good words to me and you. Nature is speaking words of hope, words of confidence, words of strength. A father doesn't speak lashon hara about a child. Hashem yisbarach eina medaber lashon hara al Yisrael. God doesn't speak negatively about the Jews. Like a father doesn't speak negatively about the son. Nimtza. We find that kisha adam medaber lashon hara, when a person goes ahead and he uses his speech, which of course were created b'tzelem Elokim, the same way that God creates worlds with His speech. You and I are outfitted with the capacity of speech, the same thing, to create, to build people up, to communicate good messages to people, not to put people down, not to speak negatively, but to speak in a positive way. It's so easy for people to speak negatively. It's so easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. There's no chiddush to it. There's no kunz. You don't think people are always trying to see the positive, that it's any chiddush for them to see the negative? Of course they see it. There's no chiddush there. To point out the bad, to complain, anybody could do that. Everybody does that. But to be a person who's building up with speech, to be a person who tries to see the positive in every situation, who tries to lift up other Jews, to give people hope, it's a mashu acher. This is God's work. This is the tzelem Elokim. This is why we have a mouth in the first place, like the Kedushas Levi says in the end of Parshas Boy. This is why we have a mouth, is to build up, is to speak good things, like God is speaking good things, like God is bringing the world into existence because He believes in us, like God is speaking diburim tovim on you and I all the time with an ayin tova. This is why we have a mouth. So lashon hara, again, back to the beginning, is not just simply something that I go ahead and I say negatively, that it's not good midos. That's of course true. But that's on a very simple level, but there's something far deeper. And that's why the Metzorah has to go through this process that's so unique, and that's so intense, and that's so extreme, and that requires so much. Is because he didn't just simply go ahead and to speak bad words about another person. Because he didn't go ahead and just split up a closeness or relationship. He misused his koach hadibur in the most essential way, in the most fundamental way, in the most detrimental way. And let's read it inside. Mare ba'atzmo, this person proves in a certain way about himself, that in that moment when a person utilizes his koach hadibur lira, to speak negatively about somebody, in that moment, in a certain crazy way, subconsciously, sub-spiritually, he seems to be showing to the world, demonstrating that I really don't think that the world is telling me good things. I really don't think that the capacity of speech, which is rooted in God's capacity of speech, is only speaking tov, is only speaking good. I don't believe that I'm surrounded by God's speech all the time. Stam, there's a world. I think that my koach hadibur is disconnected from a spiritual source. Just happens to be that I have a mouth and I can eat with it and I can speak with it and I can do whatever I want with it. That I'm not here on a mission. That the world wasn't created b'shvili. In a certain way, it's implicit, of course, we don't mean this. But when a Jew speaks Lashon Hara in a certain way, that's mara, that's reflective of a certain very deep disconnect with the concept of what speech is, with the concept of what nature is, with the concept of what God is, with the concept of what we were invested with this koach for in the first place. It's far more than just, it's not good midos, bein adam l'chaveiro. That's also true, and it's terrible. That's terrible. On a simple level, that's mamish what it is. But on a deeper level, it's mamish avodah zarah. It's literally heresy in the sense that I'm disconnecting my koach hadibur from the koach hadibur that brings all of being into existence. I'm disconnecting the world from God. I'm disconnecting my klei hadibur, my physical capacity of speech, from the deepest depths of my soul. And mamish, that's why it's comparable to avodah zarah, to the worst of the worst. An amazing thing. And David HaMelech alav Shalom says in Tehillim, Asher Amru Lil Shonenu Nagbir, those that say, Asher Amru, those that say, Lil Shonenu Nagbir, that we are in control of our speech, and with our speech we will conquer. That a man can say whatever he wants, that a man can speak however he pleases. The Rishonim, the wicked, say that we can use our speech to say any number of words. Whatever we want, we can speak. There's no filter. Because they don't believe that they were sent here for a mission. They don't believe that they were sent here to value speech, to lift speech up, and to use speech to create, to build. The end of that pasuk is the following words, and here we're coming to an end. I apologize for going over time. Sifasenu itanu, they say, oh, our lips are ours. It's in our control. We can do whatever we please. Listen to these last three words of the pasuk. Mi adon lanu. Who is our master? But listen to the daikonos, to the specificity of the way that David HaMelech spoke this pasuk, of these words that he used, mi adon lanu. Because what did we say about the word adon before? That this midah of adon, in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the master of the world, is the melech of the world, malchus, adni sefasai tiftach, this midah of adni, of adon, is connected to God's speech. And so when we stand up and say, sifasenu itanu mi adon lanu, when we stand up and we say, Asher Amar Lil Shaninu Nagbir, that we can use our speech as we please, that we can use our speech to destroy and to complain, to be negative and to drag ourselves down and others down. Implicitly what we're really saying is Mi Adon Lanu. There's no Midah of Adni. Mi Adon Lanu. There's no Adni Sefasai Tiftach, that when I go outside and look up at the heavens, I'm hearing good words, that the world is being spoken into existence perpetually by God, that He's constantly conscious and concerning every detail of existence. God has a stake in what's going on over here. That God is speaking the world into being because He believes in us. Mi adin lanu. When we use our speech in a negative way, that's implicitly what we're saying. Mi adin lanu is comparable to avodah zarah. Avod tzarech lahamin, rather a person, here we come into the end. Avod tzarech lahamin, a person needs to believe shadiburi malchus shamayim, that his speech is literally the kingship and the sovereignty of the master of the world being expressed in his mouth, being expressed in the way that he speaks. And this is what the Gemara says, Mi moishel bit tzaddik, that the tzaddik that goes ahead and creates, like the pasuk says, B'chol b'nayich l'mudei Hashem, Talmidei Chachamim are marbim shalom ba'olam, they build the world, al tikar b'nayich, ela b'nayich, they build up the world. God says that's with my speech that I invested in their mouths, that I create with speech. Af'ata mahu, af'ata, so do they create with their words, with their Torah that they teach, with their encouragement that they give, with their hope that they express, with their love that they articulate. And there, in their creative words, is expressed the creative energy that brings all of being into existence. When they create with their words, and they don't speak Lashon Hara, but on the contrary, they speak Lashon Tov, they pick people up, within those words, one can hear the echo of God speaking the world into being. One can hear the tremor of faith, of emunah. One can hear the tzaddik's deep conviction that we are surrounded by God's speech, and that speech is such an important thing, such a high thing, such an elevated thing, something that we should never ever take for granted or disconnect from its core mission. Now, how does a person come to this emunah? How does a person come to the belief that the world was created with the letters of the Torah? How does a person come to the belief that we're surrounded by the speech of God and that God is not silent but He's loud? Because who told you that God speaks through a WhatsApp voice note? Who told you that God speaks through an email? God speaks through creation. That's how God speaks. And so we're surrounded by God's speech all the time. God is not silent. God is so loud. And God Baruch Hu is speaking to us all the time. Constantly the bas kol is echoing throughout being. Yom li yom yabia omer. Nature speaks. Nature mamish speaks to you and me. Good words, diburim tovim. How does a person come to that reality, to that realization, to that awareness? So he says, through studying the Torah, through connecting to the Torah. When a person speaks words of Torah like we're doing right now, like all of us who are listening are engaged in, that the words are registering in our minds and echoing in our lips, like the Zohar Kadosh says, and Rabbi Nachman brings down, even listening is speaking in a certain way. Who may be by malchus shamayim. Such a person who uses the klei hadibur for good, he's refreshing the world. This is very, very, very deep. There's so many angles to this and so many different levels. We should have no time, and it's difficult for me to speak in this way. I'm still not so comfortable with it. But it's the deepest. Who may be boy malchus shamayim. With his words, he's building up existence. It's the deepest. It's the deepest thing. Our speech is connected with God's speech. God's speech is connected with creation itself. That means that our speech is literally creating worlds in the way that God's speech creates the world around us every split second. Speech is not a light thing, it's not a small thing, it's the deepest thing. And let's finish off. There's a machlokus in the Gemara as to whether a person who speaks Lashon Hara can have a full rectification. One says, Ein letakana. There's no rectification for such a thing. You can't bring the words back into your mouth after you speak them. One of the big tragedies of speech is that there's no undoing it. Words that were spoken cannot be unspoken. After a certain amount of minutes on WhatsApp, can't delete that message anymore. It's just there. It's out there. And the damage is done. But another Manda Amar says there is a way to rectify, and that is Yasek b'Torah, to speak and to involve oneself with Torah, like the Pasuk in Mishlei says, Marpi Lashon. How do we heal speech? Eitz Chayim. And Eitz Chayim Hila Machazikim Baz. Obviously a reference to the Torah, to the tree of life. Says the Meor Einayim, they are not arguing at all. Even though there seems to be a big disparity between their approaches, but they're not arguing. Because this is a rule in the entire Torah. That when we have a machlokus between tzaddikim in every generation, we say that both these and these are the ways of the living God, are the words of the living God. It says the Meor Einayim, they both agreed to each other's opinions, but they're speaking about two different scenarios. They both agree that when a person learns Torah shelo lishma, not with this desire to connect to the master of the world on the deepest level, to build up one's spiritual muscle, to become more aware of God's existence in the world, ein lo takana. Such a person will not have the rectification necessary. But when When a person learns Torah Lishma, when a person opens the Gemara, and a person opens the Tanakh, and the Sefer Muslim, the Sefer Chassid, and the Sefer Kabbalah, and a person opens any area of Torah that suits his soul, that a person feels connected with, and a person speaks those holy words with the awareness and the certainty and the conviction that this is what my mouth was created for, was to speak these holy letters. And that when I speak these letters, even though I do not see structures that are literally emerging from my mouth as I speak, but I need to believe that creation is getting stronger, and that I'm bringing down hashpa'os and blessings and good energies and vibes, and I'm building the whole world. They build up the entire world. When a person learns Torah in this way, this is an absolute rectification for all of the times that he used his speech in a negative way. For all the times that he spoke poorly about others, negatively down, and put other people down and complained, not just Lashon Hara, but any kind of speech that's negative, that's disconnected from the hope of existence, the hope of being. The lack of despair that's implicit in the fact that there is existence at all. That Hashem is bringing the world into existence every morning. I woke up, Rabba Manasecher, Hashem, you believe in me so much, you believe in the world so much. God's speech is such good speech. It's such diburim tovim all the time. Such a person, V'zeo marpe lashon eitz chayim, such a person who maybe by Malchus Shemayim, he reawakens the sovereignty of heaven and earth within him. V'zeo marpe lashon eitz chayim, and such a person is healing his speech. And here's the last paragraph. Again, I mamash ask your forgiveness for going so much overtime, and I thank you all for sticking with me and for being with me. It means so much to me. V'zeu, and this is pshat in the pasuk. Zois tia Tazria-Metzorah. That pasuk with which we began introduces the purification process of the Metzorah with the words Zos Tazria-Metzorah. Now you do find that in other places of the Torah, but it literally means this is the sugya, this is the conversation concerning and the laws concerning the Metzorah. Those Torahs, this is the teaching of the Metzorah. It says the Meor Einayim, it's very, very specific. The Torah is teaching us that you know what the rectification for the Metzorah, the Motzi Ra, somebody who used his faculty of speech in a negative way and thereby disconnected himself from creation itself and from the mission for which we were sent to this world to embody and to imitate in a certain way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is creating the world with speech through our diburim tovim. What's the tikkun of rectification for such a person? Zois Tazria-Metzorah. Learning Torah, speaking words of Torah. L'motzeiim bepeh chayim heim l'motzeiim, to speak out the words of Torah that we're learning. Zois tia Tazria-Metzorah. This is the rectification for the Torah. Ratzalom ra Torah v'limud shal motzi ra. The Torah study of such a person who has spoken evil speech, b'yom taharasai. This itself will be his rectification. Zois tia Tazria-Metzorah. If a person speaks Lashon Hara, if a person complains, and a person brings himself down and others down and is looking for a tikkun, open a sefer. Speak the holy words and the holy letters for which our mouths were created. Realize that we're surrounded by God's speech. Not mi adon lanu, but yesh adon lanu. Bivadai yesh adon lanu. That God is not silent, but God is surrounding us, and His speech is perpetually echoing throughout existence, throughout every particle of physicality. God is not the most silent, but God is the loudest. Mamish the loudest, with a capital L. This is the tikkun. Zois tia Tazria-Metzorah. The Metzorah wants to know how to rectify. The answer is Tazria-Metzorah. B'yom taharasa yekadei la'alos v'lekasher es diburish u'malchus shamayim v'nikra zois lekasher el ha'Torah. Getting to the depth there, the word zos is also connected to malchus and also connected to the concept of adni, of speech, of creative speech. This will bring the person to the Kohen, also with a capital Kuf, with a capital K, to the master of the world, to the high priest of being, the high priest, the infinite high priest. This will bring us back to the master of the world. So the Meor Einayim, to close, really takes us into the deep, deep, deep underbelly and the bowels, really, of this sin, which appears on a certain level to be something so simple. So what did you do? You spoke. You didn't stab someone in the back, so you spoke something negative. How negative is it? How bad really is it? And the Meor Einayim takes us into the depth of that, first by saying that it's literally holding back HaKadosh Baruch Hu's onig, the pleasure that Hashem has from each and every Jew. And how do we know Hashem has pleasure from each and every Jew? Because He created the world for each and every Jew. And the world is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's speech. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking good about every Jew all the time, because Hashem is looking toward the essence. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking toward the essential goodness of each and every Jewish person. So not only do you turn God's oneg, His pleasure, into nega, into the plague that then afflicts this person in the form of tzaras, but actually it's a form of avodah zarah mamish, the worst of the worst. It's a form of disconnecting myself from the speech by which I'm perpetually surrounded. It's a form of looking up and to say, Master of the world, I don't really believe that you believe in me. And more than that, I don't really believe that you really care in the sense of speaking the world into being. You created the world and you removed yourself from it. Form of idolatry. Or to say, Ribboneh Shel Olam, I don't believe in you at all. Not to say Ribboneh Shel Olam, to say, I just don't believe in this. I just don't believe in this b'chlal. Such a thing is not just avodah zarah, is not just lashon hara. Such a thing is, can't imagine. Can't imagine what that means. Can't imagine what that is. So we find ourselves in a time where it's so easy again. It's so easy to speak negatively. It's so easy to use our koach hadibur to bring down the situation, to look down on others, to look down on. It's so easy. But the chiddush is that we have to be people who realize that we have speech in the first place for a purpose. That the speech that we have is for the purpose of doing what? The speech that we have is for the purpose of creating others. The purpose of speech is so that we should confer God's existence on everything, and to make it clear to ourselves and to others that Ribboneh Shel Olam, the whole world is you. The whole world is your speech. We're surrounded by your speech, and it's good speech. It's diburim tovim. We should be zeicha to good things. We should be zeicha to shmuos tovos, good news, besuras tovos. All those who need a refuah shlema should have a refuah shlema. And we should really be able to move into a kind of existence where we see with our own eyes that maloi chala aretz kavod, that the whole world is God's glory, God's honor that surrounds us. Da'anani kavod mamish. We should be able to see it with our own eyes, Chevra. Thank you so much for listening. I apologize again for going so much over time. I wish you a wonderful, beautiful Shabbos, and Eretz Hashem, we'll see you soon, I hope, in person, in Yerushalayim, Eretz Hashem. Thank you so much for joining.